Caught out by the unusually high tide in southwest London. Imagine if this was your car. Now, if you've been caught out in some heavy rain recently, spare a thought for some of these. Some unlucky motorists in Mortlake were caught out by what's being described as an unusually high tide on the Thames earlier. So we sent our reporter, Harry Lowe, to find out more. Hi there, Harry. What's it like down there?
Well, the Thames burst its bank here about 3 hours ago, and people are still bailing water out of their cars. We're seeing vehicle recovery trucks going back and forth, and there's a lot of mud on the ground. The Environment Agency has issued a flood alert along the Thames that stretches from Putney Bridge down towards Hampton and Thames Ditton, and that's to warn of flooding and to avoid low-lying footpaths. A little bit earlier on, we spoke to Monty, who works in the local area, and he said it's the worst he's ever seen.
I've been living here 21 years of my life, and it is just absolutely mental. We've had the river come up higher than we've ever seen it before. It's come up with flooded cars in the area. We've had, like, no one's been able to walk along the towpath for about half a mile. It is an absolute nightmare getting around, especially people trying to drive around and get around towards like Chiswick Bridge area. Around the roads, it is just a nightmare. We've had cars flooded, engines have been flooded. The blinkers are going off. We've had alarms going off all day.
And Storm Ciarán's on the way. From 6 p.m. on Wednesday, a yellow weather warning is in place for rain and wind, and that covers Kent, Surrey and large parts of London south of the river. That means there's possible disruption to public transport, flooding to homes and businesses, and some roads may be cut off. For people here, when it ends at the end of Thursday, they'll certainly be hoping to avoid a repeat of today.
Communities already dealing with the damaging effects of stormy weather could face even more flooding this week. The Met Office has warned that Storm Ciarán will see heavy rainfall on already saturated ground. There was more damage to homes across the country over the weekend, including in Sussex, which was hit by a tornado. From the town of Littlehampton, our science correspondent Martin Stew has this.
It was a wild weekend of weather which battered the West Country. Land slipping loose in Looe, whilst two pubs, both called the Ship Inn, nearly ended up afloat. One in Mevergissey, the other in Cockwood, where an entire wall came down. The same weather system triggered a tornado in West Sussex, a mini twister ripping the roof off one house.
Everything just went flying in the garden. Fence panels went flying, wheelie bins went everywhere. It was horrendous.
That was the lull before the real storm later this week, named by the Met Office as Ciarán.
It's going to intensify on Tuesday and Wednesday, way out in the Atlantic. All the ingredients are there in the atmosphere, and this is potentially going to be a very powerful storm.
The way storms work is the deeper the area of low pressure, the stronger the winds. As Ciarán arrives on Wednesday night, the pressure gauge could drop to 955, 5 millibars below the lowest ever recorded in England in November. That could see wind gusts along the coast of up to 90 miles per hour. That's a deeper low than Storm St Jude in 2013, which left 850,000 people without power. Ciarán, though, won't be quite as strong as the infamously unforecast storm of '87.
Earlier on today, apparently, a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't.
That ended up killing 18 people and felled 15 million trees.
Just like in 1987, because we've had a lot of rain recently, the ground is wet and it is soft, so that won't hold tree roots very well. Also, because it's early in the autumnal season, we still have plenty of leaves on the trees, and they act a bit like a sail. That's a problem because as the wind blows, it's more likely the tree gets blown over.
The good news is high spring tides, which exacerbated this weekend's flooding, are ebbing away. Even so, yellow weather warnings for wind and rain are in place across southern England and Wales, and they could be upgraded tomorrow. Martin Stew, ITV News, Littlehampton.
Well, Alex is here. It looks nasty, and Ciarán could deliver some bad stuff.
Absolutely. As Martin said, it is a very deep area of low pressure, and we are watching the current track of this storm. If it heads further inland, it would have more of an impact. If it goes to the south, then it would have less of an impact. Fingers crossed, that's what we're hoping for. But why is this storm expected to pack a punch? Well, it's down to the Atlantic jet stream, which is going to be powered by cold air across Canada, warm air across Mexico, and it's going to be a very unstable air mass. So as that Atlantic jet stream makes its way across the Atlantic, it's going to help Storm Ciarán intensify. So as it starts to approach us, it is going to be very bad, a very deep area of low pressure. You can see this by the very tightly packed isobar, so it will pack a punch. Strong winds, but also some fairly heavy rainfall with it as well. And there are warnings in place. In fact, before we get there, it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. We've got warnings in place this evening for rain across the south coast, and also an amber rain warning across the southeast of Northern Ireland. And then as we head towards Wednesday, a quick look at the warnings that are currently in place. We've got wind and rain warnings in place across the south. This could well be updated as we head through the coming days. Mary.